Hey, deserving listeners, a lot of you have been asking me to watch Married at First Sight, so your wish is my command. As you wish, I will watch this show and see if anything of interest comes out of my face. I have no idea what the show is about. Let's watch it.
Hey, nice to see you. This is an experiment where we arrange 5 legally binding marriages. Okay. And the only way out is divorce.
So it sounds like they do matchmaking, essentially. Maybe they interview them and determine that 2 people out of 65,000 will get along well?
We have 8 couples that are still married to this day, and 4 married at first sight babies.
So that's always great to see, because if people are still together and they're having kids, that lends to the legitimacy of this show.
As a doctor of marriage and family therapy, a licensed MFT, and a certified sex therapist, I've had years of experience both helping singles and couples in relationships.
Oh, that's interesting. So she's a fellow doctoral level MFT, just like I am. She has a doctorate in MFT. I have a doctorate in psychology, but we're probably similar in terms of our careers. Because in these reality TV shows, I'm always like, well, someone please send a therapist in there.
Before we decide who will be married at first sight.
My name is Dr. Pepper Schwartz. I'm a professor of sociology, and I teach at the University of Washington in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, she's a professor at my alma mater, University of Washington. I wonder if I've met her, actually, because
Bring a unique perspective to Married at First Sight. Hi.
Hey,
Nice to see you, Michael.
See you.
I look at the social world these people live in. I look at these people's social class, their education, their income, their values, and I make sure that those values are matched up correctly.
okay, it's one thing to look at, and you're getting an expert in there, which is good. You don't just have some random Yahoo off the street, which other shows probably do. At the same time, there's a lot of research out there around how to matchmake. Match.com, eHarmony, all these sites are really interested in trying, and it was more so in the past. These dating sites would claim that they would be able to match you up with someone that was really made for you. And so these businesses were trying to sell a product. They were trying to say, look, you could go to all these other sites, but our site, we have experts and science that proves that we won't just throw a bunch of people at you. Our science knows which people are going to be good for you, and so you don't have to waste time with all those other people. These businesses have a lot of interest in being able to actually be as accurate as possible, and they would pour a lot of money into research. And it's not super hard to do, especially when you have a website with tons and tons of data to pour through, and there's a lot of science in there, and there's a lot of research, and there's a lot of data gathering. However, from my memory of the research was that it was extremely hard for scientists to be able to predict, based on surveys and interviews, which 2 people were going to actually work out together. There are certain global things like, do you want to have kids? But those are pretty obvious. How good looking someone is also another thing, the values. So maybe she's thinking about those kinds of things. But from my memory, it was really hard to do that. Because just imagine if someone actually came out with a survey, maybe it took 3 hours to complete, or maybe several hours to complete. And the science had demonstrated that they had the ability to narrow it down to 5 people, one of which is very likely to be a person that you were highly compatible with. Imagine if someone could actually do that. That would be a very useful tool for people. People get tired of dating the wrong person. So the fact that we don't have that is evidence of the fact that it's too complex, and it's highly chemistry driven. It's highly dependent on so many factors that we can't even measure, just innumerable factors. I'm not really up to date on the science, so maybe there's new science and maybe she'll explain it. So I'm going to remain open.
Because I want them to find a spouse that they can live with forever. Oh, good. Hi.
Hi, how you doing?
Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well.
It's important for me to visit everyone's home because that tells me a lot about them. A little backyard? You're not a gardener?
No.
I take a look at what tells me if they're really ready for marriage.
Kind of a little bachelor pad, emphasis on the bachelor right now.
I want to see how they live. Are they neat? Are they messy? Do they crave expensive things? Or are they minimalists?
Okay, right away, I'm skeptical. I mean, maybe she'll throw in some explanation of, I pull in lots of data, I get a sense for who they are, and I try to make my best guess. But if she's claiming that the things that she's rattling off here are good indicators of a good match, I would want to see the science on that. Now, I'm not saying she isn't a good matchmaker. Maybe she has what it takes with the wisdom and the experience that she has, that she's seen a lot of things through her anecdotal experience.
Thank you.
Now we will discuss the pros and cons of each potential couple, and then make the difficult decision about who is going to be married at first sight.
My God, I would never be a contestant on this show. There is no way. To rely on those people to decide for me who I was going to marry, that is a leap that I personally would never take. I would want to meet someone before I married them. Now, I will say that years and years ago, I had a friend who late at night, it's the party is winding down and you're starting to get into that weird conversation about esoteric things. And he was having trouble with his girlfriend, and he's like, you know what? Sometimes I wish that the next woman I meet, that we just get married. Just forget it. Just get married. Don't date. Don't think about it. And then just make it work, because you're married and you have to make it work. I could imagine someone like my friend Blaine going on a show like this to be like, look, I've tried all the other ways. Maybe if I just marry someone and, I just want to make it work.
This season, we're choosing 5 couples.
5 couples! Wow.
Wow.
This is going to be a trip.
This is going to be massive.
Okay, so I actually am curious about the success rate of this show. So they say that 8 of the couples are together, but I'm looking at the Wikipedia page here. And season 1, there were 3 couples, and one of the couples is married and 2 of them are divorced. Season 2, all 3 divorced. Season 3, all 3 divorced. Season 4, all 3 divorced. Season 5, 2 divorced, 1 was married. Season 6, 1 married, 2 divorced. Season 7, 1 married, 2 divorced. Season 8, 2 married, 2 divorced. And season 9, 2 divorced, 2 married. But the thing is season 8 and 9 has a higher rate of still married, which could mean that they just haven't had enough time to divorce yet. Because when we go further back, most of them are divorced. The question is it them and their model, or is it the fact that you could just take, because I guess the true way to test this would be to do a different show where you just pull numbers out of a hat or minimal details that, like a dating site, like do you want to have kids, how old are you, blah, blah, blah. And you match people up and you compare that rate to this rate. The other question is, because I think this is why the dating sites do this, do the contestants believe in the couple more because these professionals make them believe in it, sort of a placebo effect? Because that's what a lot of these dating sites will try to do. They will say, we matched you up with a couple people today. Our models predict that you're 99% compatible with this person. Well, when you go on a date with science telling you this person's compatible with me, does that affect how attracted you are? Does that affect how open you are? Does that affect your optimism and enjoyment of that date?
One couple I would really like to fight for is Mika and Michael.
Awesome.
Yeah.
They're both professionally ambitious. She says without embarrassment that she'd like to be CEO someday. And he teaches kids with special needs, and he thinks of himself as becoming a principal someday.
These are 2 power people.
So right away, I guess it makes sense that they might consider ethnicity when they match people up. I doubt they would have those kinds of conversations openly because that would potentially cause controversy. But right away, we see 2 what looks to be African-American people being matched up. And maybe that's a evidence-based way of actually helping to assure a good match. I guess as this show goes on and I react to it, I should probably actually take this opportunity to look into all the research, because there's a lot of scientific research on just this question. Can you predict two people who would actually be married 5-10 years later by certain survey questions?
They both appreciate that in each other. They both want family. They're both physical. I like the idea that he does yoga. I like the idea that she runs. We have some people, I think, who some parallel things, and that's why I think they would bring a lot to the table for each other.
So right off the bat, I mean, the things that she's bringing up are fine, but you people out there, just think about, especially you people who have recently been dating lots of people, just think about the things she just said. She said that they both are physical, meaning that, you know, he does yoga and she jogs. Well, a lot of people do that. Very surface kinds of things, the job that they're at, that kind of thing. Okay, you people out there who have dated people recently, think about the last 3 disastrous matchups you had, and think about the commonalities that you had with that person that from the outside, given the frame that she's using, would match you up very well together. So now, if these people said we gave them 500 questions and we consulted with different models that have been demonstrated to give better than chance of matching people up, and we also interviewed them, and I also went into the home, but this woman is purely just basing this on going into their home, talking with them. Now, I'm not saying she's a bad matchmaker. I'm just saying it raises alarm bells of pseudoscience.
There are some concerns I have. Michael was raised by all women in his family. Mika was raised by a single mom. So Mike hasn't had a strong father image, neither has she.
Yeah.
And so my question is, will he know how to transition into husbandhood? And will she know what that looks like?
What? What I'd love to see is more in depth, you know, talk to them. How do you feel about being a husband? What is your track record in your relationships? How have you got along with other women? Actual talking about relationships instead of just looking at these demographic factors and really projecting a lot of assumptions on it.
So I do see them being able to relate to each other's struggles and sort of feed off each other. So I believe that on a deeper level, they could really connect. And I believe that this will be a good couple.
Then I think we should go forward with them. Do I have your support?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Yeah.
So the marriage and family therapist didn't even chime in. It's just the sociologist and the reverend basing it on extremely limited information. Now, I'm going to take a guess that they had much more lengthy conversations off camera. I think I'm being a jerk, honestly. I don't want to be mean to people. Let me know what you think about this reaction video, because this is the first one that I've done, and if there's not a big reaction to this, then I'll just stop it from here.
Jessica and Austin.
Yeah.
Jessica is a patient care manager. She manages over 130 nurses. She is ambitious. She is nurturing. And Austin left a very time-consuming job in order to seek work-life balance. He wants to be married. He wants to be able to be a good husband. They are active. They are physical.
There's that physical word again. I'm liking more of her language. Maybe it's just because we're in the same field.
They want honest communication. They value a sincerity.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't want honest communication and sincerity? I wish she would expand, and maybe again in her head she has an expanded conceptualization of that. Maybe while she talked to them, she discovered that they both are very honest. They both like to self-disclose. They both don't have a problem with admitting their own faults, and they're very honest in that way, and they want someone else to do that, and she noticed that in both people.
I think they are both those people. Jessica is close with her identical twin. Austin is also very close with his family members, and now it sounds like they both just want to start their own family.
So the fact that they're close to their family is not a compelling factor, aside from the fact that that could indicate that they have secure attachment and differentiation, and they were raised well so that they're less triggered by relationships and more likely to get along and more likely to accommodate and listen to someone else. And also, how did she measure that? Did she just ask them, are you close to your family? And he's like, yep, I'm close to my family. But if you really looked at it, you might find that, yeah, they talk a lot, but they're not really close. I don't know. I'm still, this whole reaction is just me tearing this down. They've been successful. 8 couples are still together. They must be doing something kind of right, maybe.
I think that they would be a great match.
Well, there's something you need to bring up. Austin is really close to his mom. When he starts to describe what he wants, he describes what his mother wants. And that's always a little worrisome about who's going to be first in a marriage, right?
So that's a cultural bias. Plenty of people really value what their parents think. Plenty of men really value and care about what their mothers think. They're playing the goofy music right now to kind of laugh at this guy. And okay. The other thing I'll say is that I have been asked to be on TV shows like this before. And I've always been really hesitant for a lot of reasons. One is that I don't want to move away from Seattle. I like my practice. I like my family. I like my students. I like my job. But another reason is you have to make a deal with the devil to be on a show like this, because the producers are saying, because I could totally imagine this woman, she's a doctorate level person. She probably has, to get that degree, you've got to do a lot of hard work and years of study and a lot of nights reading a book and writing papers and working really hard. She probably wanted to bring a lot of science to the show. And then the producers are like, okay, that's great, but we don't have a lot of time. So we only really want you to talk for about 3 sentences because, we're a fast-paced show. So just say 3 sentences. And she's like, well, I have like 25 sentences to say. I mean, listen to me. I talk forever in these it's more me talking than watching the show, which I'm sure bugs the crap out of some people, but I can't help it because there's so many angles and there's so many ways to look at it. I'm guessing she might be like that, but the producers are limiting her. And so if I was on a show like this and the producers were limiting me, I don't know if I could take it.
I didn't get the sense that his mom is the one calling all the shots. I just think he has deferred to her opinion as the woman in his life who's been the constant.
Sure.
And hopefully now, Jessica could be that person for him in the future.
I'm feeling good about it.
Okay.
We have our second couple.
Yeah, our second couple.
All right.
So again, I'm guessing they had a much longer conversation, different than this tiny one.
Katie and Derek. I'm impressed with these two. I think they both were looking to create a family.
I get that. I do like her. But Derek is still very much in a self-growth phase of his life. Is he just too young?
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I love about Derek is that he loves love, that he wants love.
But he hasn't had it yet. What does that really say?
Nothing. It says nothing. What does the data say? Does the data show anything that says anything? You have doctorates. The sociologist is a professor, right? Sociology involves a lot of science and numbers and research and data and empirical evidence. We know that we can't just say things.
They don't have the life experience. They don't have the maturity.
So are you saying you don't want to match Katie and Derek?
I don't know.
So let's actually use their own data to back up what the marriage and family therapist is saying. We have a sample here. If anything, we're seeing that younger people stay together, are more likely to stay together. So right there, if we just look at the data from their own show, we do not see a correlation between age and whether or not they're going to stay together or not.
I see why you would like Derek and Katie. They are young.
Agreed.
But one beautiful thing about marriage, when you're marrying young and mature, is that you get to grow up together. But you have to be really mature to make that work, and you're believing that they are.
I truly believe that Derek and Katie have this special mix of curiosity and imagination and positive attitude and an embrace of life that really will give them a firm foundation for a lifetime marriage.
So what this instantly reminds me of is sports betting. So I love football, American football, and I'll plunk down a couple dollars sometimes on a football game. For the record, last NFL season, I was up. I actually, by the end of the season, I had won a little bit of money. So I just want to say that because I'm not a degenerate gambler. Part of my research to see, like, should I bet on the Seahawks? Should I not? I would watch exact TV shows like this where three people would sit around and they would hypothesize. They'd say, well, Russell Wilson is looking good this year. I think they're going to win it by 7. And they'll say it with a lot of authority. Well, as the season went on, there were a few people that I was following, and because I'm an empirical person, I started keeping track of people's predictions as to whether or not they were right or wrong. And guess what? All the experts, their hit rate was about 50%. Some people were like 51.5%. So basically, most people, it was just like flipping a coin. And even though they could talk for literally hours about why they believe the Seahawks were going to beat the Rams, the statistics showed they just had no idea. That's what this looks like to me.
You're right. They're pretty well matched.
Yeah.
I think that they could grow together. They certainly are more mature than your average 20-something.
Yeah.
So let's give it a shot.
I think we have another couple.
All right.
That's great.
I know, right?
I'm very excited.
Again, there are pretty easy ways to measure some more deeper things like attachment style, like how you conflict with people, how agreeable you are. There are easy, pretty short 15-minute tests that you could give these people and actually have some data to back up what they're saying. And it's disappointing that these professionals aren't doing it. It would be an opportunity for the public to actually learn about how we operate and that we don't just make stuff up off the top of our heads.
I think these two are really compatible. They're both traditional in their perspectives on marriage. He wants to be the father he never had. And they both want children. So I think that there are a lot of similarities there.
So wait, which is it, Reverend? The last guy who didn't have a dad in his life, that was a negative indicator. But this guy who also doesn't have a dad in his life, it's a positive indicator. Did you come to watch this for me to just pick apart this show? Because if you didn't, I really apologize.
All right.
Wow.
So we've selected our 5 couples to be married at first sight.
All right, well, that does it for that episode in which I basically just trash everything about what they were saying, which I feel bad about, honestly, because I don't know much about their behind-the-scenes process. So maybe I'll know more about that next time. Let me know what you think. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.